When the world turned its back on him, she offered him her hand. He was a man who once ruled the skyline of New York. She was a woman the world barely noticed. But in 5 minutes, she did what an entire board of executives couldn't. She stopped the collapse of his empire. And the words she spoke next changed both of their lives forever. The storm hit on a Thursday morning. Inside the headquarters of Thorne Industries, chaos spread faster than wildfire. Screens flashed red. Traders yelled through headsets. Phones rang without answer. Stock down 30%, someone shouted. Investors are pulling everything now, another voice echoed. Ethan Thorne stood in the center of the boardroom, staring at the collapsing numbers on the large digital screen. Every flicker represented a piece of his dream disappearing. His empire, built from a small garage at 22, was now disintegrating in front of his entire team. Mr. Thorne, the media is calling this the biggest corporate crash of the decade. Should we release a statement? His assistant's voice trembled. Ethan didn't answer. His mind was blank. He could still remember the nights he slept on the office couch, coding alone, eating cold pizza, believing he was building something that would change the world. Now, that same world was laughing at him. At the back of the room, the cleaning staff moved quietly, almost invisible among the panic. They swept around the edges, collecting empty cups and the wreckage of another failed meeting. But Amara Lewis wasn't just cleaning, she was watching. Her eyes followed the graphs on the screen, the numbers, the movement of hands on keyboards. She had worked there for 3 months, wiping tables and polishing the glass walls that separated her from the powerful. Yet in silence, she listened. She listened to every broken deal, every angry phone call, every whisper about betrayal. Amara knew something others didn't. The company wasn't dying from competition, it was being bled from the inside. She had seen the financial documents accidentally left on the table. She had noticed the signatures that didn't match, the missing funds that no one dared question. And now, as the last meeting of the morning spiraled into shouting, she realized Ethan Thorne was about to lose everything. "Ethan, we can't sustain this any longer," a board member barked. "If we don't liquidate within 24 hours, we'll be bankrupt." "Liquidate?" Ethan's voice cracked. "You mean sell off what's left of the company I built?" "It's the only option," another executive snapped. "Face reality, Ethan." He gripped the edge of the table until his knuckles whitened. Reality was cruel, and for once, even he couldn't argue with it. The board members gathered their documents, muttering under their breath. Reporters outside were already setting up cameras. The empire of Thorne Industries, once valued at $8.4 billion, was about to crumble. In that moment, Ethan Thorne was no longer the golden boy of Silicon Valley. He was a failure surrounded by suits who had stopped believing in him. Then, through the tension and the noise, a quiet voice spoke. "Excuse me, should I clean this room after your meeting, or wait?" Heads turned in disbelief. Standing by the glass door was Amara Lewis, wearing her Navy uniform, holding a mop and a bucket. Someone laughed under his breath. "Lady, can't you see this is a board meeting? We're a bit busy losing millions." Amara didn't move. Her tone stayed calm, steady. "I can wait. But before I do, may I borrow your laptop, Mr. Thorne?" The room fell into stunned silence. A janitor asking to touch the CEO's computer? Absurd. Ethan blinked, unsure if he'd heard right. "What did you say?" "I said," she repeated, "let me use your laptop for 5 minutes. I think I can help." Laughter broke out around the room. "This is ridiculous," someone sneered. "Security should escort her out." 5 minutes, Amara said again, her voice unshaken. "That's all I ask." Ethan hesitated. He was exhausted, mentally, emotionally, financially. And maybe, deep down, he was desperate enough to listen to anyone who sounded confident. He gestured toward the screen. "Go ahead." Amara walked forward, placed the mop aside, and sat in front of the glowing monitor. Her fingers began moving across the keyboard with startling precision. Every click echoed in the silence of the room. The board members exchanged skeptical glances. Does she even know what she's doing? Probably Googling how to fix a bankruptcy, another whispered. Then, an alert sound. The numbers on the board began shifting. One executive gasped. Wait. The stock graph, it's leveling. Another shouted, it's going up. What did she do? Amara didn't answer. She typed one last command, then closed the laptop gently. The system's been rerouted, she said. I've delayed the trading algorithm that was feeding false sell orders. She turned to Ethan. But that's only temporary. If you want to stop the collapse completely, you'll have to do something drastic. Ethan stared at her, speechless. This woman had just stabilized his company in 3 minutes, something his entire executive team couldn't do in 3 weeks. What exactly do you mean by drastic? He finally asked. Amara took a breath. Her calmness unnerved everyone. Marry me, she said. Marry me, and I'll save your company. The room froze. The board members erupted again, laughter, outrage, disbelief. Marry her? This is insane. She's a cleaner, not a lawyer. But Amara didn't back down. Her voice was steady, confident. I know the law, Mr. Thorne. A legal spousal merger can protect your assets during corporate seizure. Your competitors can't touch what belongs to your family. Ethan studied her face, calm, intelligent, unshaken by the storm around her. There was something in her tone, not arrogance, not madness, but certainty. And for the first time that day, he didn't feel hopeless. The board members filed out, muttering under their breath. The storm outside still raged. Ethan looked at the woman standing in front of him, the maid who had just saved his company's heartbeat. Who are you, really? He asked quietly. Amara gave a faint smile. Someone who's tired of cleaning up after other people's mistakes. That moment became the spark that changed both their lives. But to understand how a maid could speak with such confidence to a billionaire on the verge of ruin, you need to know where she came from, and why she risked everything to save a man who didn't even know her name. The question lingered in Ethan's mind long after she left the boardroom. Who was she? That calm voice. That unshakable certainty. No cleaner should have known what she did, yet her words carried the weight of someone who'd already seen the battlefield and survived it. Years earlier, Ethan Thorne was the kind of man headlines adored. A 22-year-old prodigy with restless energy and an idea that promised to reshape the future, affordable clean energy. He built Thorne Industries from nothing but code, sleepless nights, and a stubborn belief that innovation could change lives. His garage smelled like coffee, burnt wires, and hope. By 28, he was the youngest CEO listed on Forbes. His smile was on magazine covers. His story, the poor kid turned billionaire, was the stuff of dreams. But success has a way of attracting sharks. Enter Lucas Crane, Ethan's trusted friend from business school. Charming. Brilliant. The man with the answers. Lucas became his CFO, his right hand, and for years, everything worked perfectly. Until Ethan signed the wrong partnership. Lucas had been quietly selling proprietary data to a rival energy firm for months. The leak crippled Thorne Industries' lead in the global market. When the truth finally surfaced, investors demanded heads, Ethan's first. Within weeks, lawsuits piled up. Banks froze accounts. Contracts vanished. What took Ethan 10 years to build began collapsing in 10 days. The betrayal broke him in ways the market never could. He didn't just lose money. He lost faith, in loyalty, in friendship, in himself. While the powerful fought over millions, Amara Lewis was fighting to survive. At 26, she had once stood at the top of her class, Bachelor of Finance, summa cum laude. Her professor said she'd run her own firm before 30. But one jealous supervisor saw her brilliance as a threat. When a major client's funds went missing, Amara was framed. The company's management believed the lie without question. Her spotless record meant nothing. The stain of fraud followed her everywhere. One interview after another ended the same way: polite smiles, empty promises, and rejection letters. No one hires the accused. So she took the only job she could find, cleaning offices. It wasn't pride she lost. It was belonging. Every night, as she scrubbed the floors of other people's dreams, she whispered to herself, "This isn't forever." Her route eventually led to Thorne Industries, a company she knew from her university research. She remembered the name Ethan Thorne from a case study titled "The Startup That Redefined Smart Energy." At first, she kept her head down. But one night, while cleaning the executive conference room, she noticed something strange: documents scattered across the table after a late meeting. Numbers that didn't add up. Transfers that circled back to shell accounts. It didn't take long for her trained mind to see the pattern. Someone was bleeding the company dry. She stayed quiet, pretending not to notice. But every night, she came back to that same table, memorizing details as she wiped them clean. Her sharp eyes caught what no one else did: Lucas Crane's name hidden behind coded authorizations. Amara began to piece it together. The fraud, the debts, the desperation behind those glass walls. And the man at the center of it all, Ethan Thorne. She had seen him once, alone in the boardroom after midnight, staring at the city lights with a glass of whiskey in hand. His reflection on the window looked like a ghost. He was brilliant, but too trusting. He's drowning and doesn't even see the rope in front of him, she thought. She wanted to tell him what she knew. But who would believe the word of a janitor over his CFO? So she did what she did best: she studied. Night after night, she analyzed forgotten documents, company policies, and corporate law buried deep in the archives. And then, one quiet evening, she found it, a single clause written into Thorne Industries' merger contract years ago. A loophole. One that could legally protect the company's ownership under a family merger. A clause no one had noticed because no one cared to read the fine print. That discovery became her secret weapon. It was the key to stopping the collapse, but only if she could convince the man who no longer trusted anyone. When she heard the shouting from the boardroom that morning, the panic, the despair, she knew it was time. Amara wiped her hands on her cleaning cloth, straightened her posture, and walked toward the room filled with millionaires. The plan she'd built quietly in her head for weeks would now face its test. 5 minutes. One proposal. One impossible chance. And as she stood in front of Ethan Thorne, with every executive's eyes on her, she knew this moment would decide everything. For him, it was survival. For her, it was redemption. The words hung in the air like static. "Marry me," she had said. Now, standing before her in the quiet boardroom, Ethan Thorne still couldn't believe what he'd heard. He rubbed a hand over his face, trying to process the madness of it all. "You want me to marry a stranger?" he asked, his tone sharp but weary. Amara didn't flinch. "Not for love, for strategy," she replied evenly. "A legal spousal merger could stop your competitors from seizing company assets. It buys you time to rebuild before they can move in." He blinked. What?" She stepped closer, her calm confidence unnerving him. "A family merger, Mr. Thorne. It's an old corporate loophole. If we're married, your shares, intellectual property, and patents fall under joint spousal protection. It makes them legally untouchable during takeover proceedings." A few remaining board members snickered from the corner. Lucas Crane, leaning against the table with smug amusement, scoffed, "This is absurd. A maid giving business advice? What's next? Mop-based economics?" The laughter stung. But Amara didn't even glance his way. Instead, she walked to the center of the room, pulled out a folded document from her uniform pocket, and placed it on the table. "Page 42, she said. "Clause 9 of your merger contract with Vectron Energy. It includes a protection clause under Section 18B, Family Holdings. That's your hidden escape hatch. Ethan frowned, flipping through the file. His legal team had reviewed this contract dozens of times, yet no one had caught it. Lucas leaned forward, his smile fading as his eyes scanned the text. This can't be valid, he muttered. It's valid, Amara replied. But it only activates under a spousal or domestic partnership. Which means, if you want to save your company, Mr. Thorne, you'll need a wife. The room fell silent again. For a moment, Ethan just stared at her, torn between disbelief and admiration. Who are you? He asked quietly. A cleaner, she said with a faint smile. Who reads contracts while waiting for floors to dry? The honesty of that line disarmed him more than any argument. Hours later, the decision was made. Ethan Thorne, the man known for logic and reason, signed a marriage certificate with a woman he had met only weeks before. There was no ceremony, no vows, no celebration, just 2 signatures in a room full of stunned witnesses. Lucas stormed out, furious. This is corporate suicide, he spat. You've just handed your empire to a stranger. Ethan didn't answer. He simply said, then let's see if the stranger's right. By morning, the world had its new headline. Billionaire marries his maid to save his company. Social media exploded. Some mocked. Some speculated. A few called it genius. Most called it desperation. Through it all, Amara stayed quiet. She moved into Ethan's mansion the following week, temporarily, as the lawyers arranged the legal merger. The house was enormous, sterile, and silent. 2 strangers living under the same roof, bound by a contract neither fully understood. They spoke rarely, except about business. Ethan spent his nights in the study, drowning in paperwork. Amara stayed in the guest room, reviewing financial ledgers she'd gathered from the company archives. But while the world doubted, she worked. In secret, she met with minor investors who still believed in Ethan's vision, people the board had ignored. She assured them stability was possible, that Thorne Industries wasn't finished yet. And for the first time in months, whispers of hope began to spread. Ethan caught glimpses of her late at night, alone in the library, surrounded by open folders, her focus razor-sharp. She looked nothing like the woman he had assumed she was. Every number, every line she studied had a purpose. He realized then, this wasn't luck. She knew exactly what she was doing. And though the marriage was supposed to be a calculated move, something deep inside him began to shift. Not love. Not yet. But trust. The one thing he thought he'd lost forever. By the end of the week, the board had no choice but to admit it, Thorne Industries was stabilizing. But as Amara's influence grew, so did the whispers. Some began calling her the miracle wife. Others called her something else entirely. The whispers started small. A single article. A headline that read, "Who is the mysterious woman behind Thorne's sudden turnaround?" Within a week, every financial blog, talk show, and news channel was asking the same question. Inside the Thorne Industries tower, things had changed. The panic was gone. The phones stopped ringing in chaos. Investors, once ready to abandon ship, were calling again. Amara's calm voice and quick decisions had turned the tide. She restructured 3 failing contracts within 48 hours, cutting losses by millions. She renegotiated with key suppliers, convincing them to extend credit terms that no lawyer had been able to secure. And somehow, she did it all quietly, without demanding credit, without ego. At first, Ethan watched from a distance, suspicious of how easily she adapted. But soon, his curiosity turned into something else, respect. One morning, during a high-stakes meeting with an international investor, Ethan stumbled mid-presentation. His strategy projected a 2-year recovery timeline. Before he could finish, Amara gently leaned forward and said, "Actually, if we restructure the clean energy division and merge it with the housing project, we can recover in 14 months. The investor raised a brow. Ethan blinked, then quickly adjusted the slide. The meeting ended in applause. When the room cleared, he turned to her. You just corrected me in front of a board worth $1 billion, he said. Amara smiled faintly. You're welcome. For the first time in months, he laughed. A real laugh. Her instincts were sharper than anyone he'd ever worked with. She noticed patterns others overlooked. One evening, while reviewing ledgers, she pointed to a set of offshore transfers buried under routine expenses. Look here, she said. This isn't a vendor account. It's a shell company. Ethan leaned closer. Who's behind it? Lucas Crane, she replied quietly. He's still moving money. But don't confront him yet. Let him think no one's watching. Her tone was steady, calculated. It wasn't revenge she wanted, it was justice done right. Ethan nodded slowly. You're not just saving my company, are you? Amara met his gaze. I'm saving your name. Days turned into weeks. Amara worked from dawn till midnight, running the office like she'd been born to do it. Her presence changed everything, from how meetings were run to how employees carried themselves. Even the janitorial staff stood a little taller when she walked by. The tabloids that once mocked her now praised her. From Maid to Miracle Wife, how Amara Lewis is reviving Thorne Industries. TV anchors called her the quiet genius. Investors started referring to her as Mrs. Thorne. At first, Ethan corrected them. But after a while, he didn't. Late one night, Ethan found her in his home office surrounded by documents and a half-empty cup of tea. You should rest, he said softly. So should you, she replied without looking up. He watched her in silence for a moment. Her focus. Her calm. Her grace. Something inside him shifted, a feeling he hadn't allowed himself to feel in years. Hope. Not just for his company, but for himself. For the first time since the fall, the lights of Thorne Tower didn't feel cold. They glowed with purpose again. But success draws attention and envy. And while Amara was rebuilding Ethan's world, someone else was plotting to destroy hers. The storm came quietly, through whispers, then headlines. At first, Amara thought it was just another rumor. But by morning, every news outlet carried the same story. Gold digger made controls Thorne fortune. CEO marries housekeeper in secret scheme. Amara Lewis, business genius or billionaire's manipulator? It was brutal. Every photo of her beside Ethan was cropped to make her look calculating. Every headline twisted her intelligence into deceit. At the board meeting that morning, the air was sharp with suspicion. Lucas Crane sat at the far end of the table, smirking behind his glass of water. Ethan, one director said, this scandal is damaging our credibility. Investors are nervous again. The market doesn't trust a company led by a MAID. Another chimed in, we all admire your loyalty, but perception matters. The best move now is to annul the marriage. Lucas leaned back, pretending to sound concerned. You were always too kind, Ethan. I warned you, people like her see opportunity, not partnership. Ethan's jaw tightened. People like her? Lucas shrugged. Come on, we both know she had a motive. No one cleans floors and reads contracts for fun. The room filled with murmurs. Ethan looked down at the papers before him, tabloid clippings, screenshots, emails from investors threatening to withdraw funding. Doubt began to creep in. That evening, he found Amara on the balcony, staring out at the skyline she'd helped him save. Her face was calm, but her eyes were distant. Is it true? He asked softly. She turned to him. What exactly? That you did this for power, for money. That marrying me was a move, not a sacrifice. Her expression froze for a moment. Then she let out a breath that sounded more like pain than anger. You really think I planned this to control you? She said quietly. You think I stayed up every night studying contracts just to take what's yours? Ethan hesitated, his voice low. I don't know what to think anymore. Her eyes hardened. No, Ethan. You never did. I didn't marry you for power, I did it to protect what's left of your dream. She took a step closer, her voice trembling but strong. You built something that mattered. And when everyone else gave up on it, I refused to. He tried to speak, but she stopped him. I believed in you when no one else did. I gave up my peace, my name, and now my dignity for this company. But if that's still not enough, then maybe you deserve the people who keep betraying you. The silence that followed was heavier than any argument. That night, Amara packed her few belongings. No tears. No anger. Just quiet resolve. The mansion's halls echoed with emptiness as she walked out, leaving behind the man she had saved, and the world that refused to see her worth. Ethan stood at the window, watching her car disappear into the night. The city lights reflected off the glass, blurring his guilt clawed at his chest. For the first time since the collapse began, he felt completely alone. Days passed, and the rumors only grew louder. Investors began withdrawing again. The board whispered about replacing him entirely. Every time Ethan saw her name in the tabloids, something twisted inside him. He replayed her words over and over, I did it to protect what's left of your dream. But dreams felt hollow now. He had power, money, and control again, yet somehow, he'd lost the only person who truly believed in him. Then one morning, a call changed everything. The government had opened a formal investigation into corporate fraud, and the evidence pointed straight to Lucas Crane. The call came on a gray Monday morning. Ethan had barely slept, another night haunted by regret and the sound of her voice echoing in his head. When his phone buzzed, he answered without checking the ID. Mr. Thorne, said a firm voice. This is Agent Collins from the SEC. You might want to turn on the news. The headline running across every major network stopped him cold. SEC exposes billion-dollar fraud inside Thorne Industries. Below it, another line followed. CEO's wife secretly cooperated with investigators. The world, once eager to label Amara a manipulator, now called her a hero. According to the report, Lucas Crane had siphoned over $1.2 billion into offshore accounts through shell corporations. The evidence? Encrypted data, internal emails, and financial records, all traced to files Amara had provided the SEC weeks before the scandal broke. Every sleepless night. Every late shift at the office. She hadn't been plotting against him, she'd been building a case to save him. Ethan felt his chest tighten as the reporter's voice echoed through the office. Anonymous documents delivered by Mrs. Amara Thorne were crucial in exposing one of the largest internal frauds in corporate history. For the first time in weeks, he felt the weight of what he'd done. He hadn't just doubted her. He pushed away the only person still fighting for him. That afternoon, Lucas was arrested. Handcuffed, pale, his smug confidence replaced with panic. He shouted as cameras flashed, "She set me up." That maid tricked us all. But the evidence spoke louder than his lies. As the world watched Lucas Crane's empire crumble, another story rose from the ashes. The maid who saved a billion-dollar company. Investors who once demanded annulment now praised Amara as the reason Thorne Industries survived. Ethan's phone filled with congratulatory messages from partners and clients. But none of it mattered. Because Amara wasn't there. He found himself driving aimlessly through the city, replaying every conversation they'd had. Every warning she'd given him. Every moment he'd ignored her. Finally, he remembered something, her old address, from the background check Lucas had once forced him to sign. He drove there, the quiet streets far from the glass towers of his world. The building was small, worn, and nothing like the mansion she had left behind. Through the cracked window, he saw her packing a single suitcase. He knocked once. Amara froze at the sound, then slowly opened the door. When she saw him, she didn't look angry. Just tired. "Amara," he said quietly, "I saw the news. You saved my company." She gave a small, ironic smile. "It wasn't about saving your company, Ethan. It was about saving the people who believed in it." He stepped closer. "You risked everything. Your name, your safety. And I doubted you. Her expression softened for a second, then hardened again. You didn't just doubt me, she said. You broke me. The words hit him like a punch. He had nothing to defend himself with, no excuses, no logic. Just guilt. I was wrong, he said. And I'll spend the rest of my life making it right. But I can't do this without you, Amara. Not as my strategist, not as my wife, just as my partner. In rebuilding everything. She looked down at the suitcase, then back at him. I told myself I'd never walk back into that world, she whispered. Then don't, he said gently. Walk into a new one, with me. The silence stretched between them, thick with everything they had lost, and everything they could still rebuild. Finally, she sighed, setting the suitcase aside. For the company's sake, she said softly, I'll come back. He nodded. But in his heart, he knew it wasn't just for the company anymore. That evening, as they drove back toward the city skyline glowing in the distance, the air felt different. Lighter. Not because the chaos was over, but because the truth had finally set them free. But freedom always comes with a price. And for every truth uncovered, another danger was waiting in the shadows, ready to strike again. The city buzzed with anticipation that morning. It was the day of the Thorn Industries annual shareholders meeting, the first since the scandal had erupted. For Ethan and Amara, it was supposed to mark a new beginning. But for Lucas Crane, it was the last chance to destroy them both. Hours before the meeting, Lucas stood in a dim warehouse on the city's edge. Handcuffs had failed to hold him long, money still bought loyalty, and loyalty bought escape. He slammed his fist onto a table covered in forged documents. They took everything from me, he hissed. But today, I take it back. His men, disgraced traitors and hired muscle, nodded silently. By noon, they would walk into that meeting posing as legal representatives, armed with falsified patents and ownership claims. Lucas's plan was simple: frame Amara for corporate theft, reclaim Thorn Industries, and watch Ethan crumble in public. At the Thorn Tower, the grand hall gleamed under the press lights. Executives filled every seat, whispering about Amara's return. She stood beside Ethan at the front, calm as ever. You ready? He asked quietly. Amara straightened her jacket. Always. But she already knew what was coming. For days, she'd sent something off, leaked emails, strange inquiries from offshore lawyers, missing data from company archives. So, she had prepared her own plan. When Lucas appeared at the door, dragging a briefcase behind him, she didn't even blink. Ladies and gentlemen, Lucas announced, his voice loud and theatrical. I am here today to reveal the truth about the so-called miracle wife. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Ethan's security team stepped forward, but Amara raised a hand. Let him speak, she said calmly. Lucas smirked. Thank you, Mrs. Thorne. It's time everyone knows the kind of woman you really are. He opened the briefcase, scattering documents across the table. These are patent rights, signed, sealed, and transferred by Amara Lewis before your little marriage. She's been stealing from Thorn Industries since day one. Reporters flashed their cameras. Board members murmured in disbelief. Ethan's fists clenched. That's a lie, Lucas. Lucas's grin widened. I have proof. And when this goes public, the SEC won't save you. He turned toward the media crew at the back of the room, ready to destroy everything again. But then Amara spoke. Her voice was clear, cutting through the noise. Actually, Lucas, she said, you're right about one thing. You do have proof. But not of my crimes, of yours. She tapped the remote in her hand. The giant LED screen behind her flickered to life. A recording began to play, Lucas's own voice. Transfer the money to the Shell account in Belize. I'll handle the rest. No one will trace it. The room went dead silent. Then another clip played. If Ethan signs that contract, the company's mine. The MAID won't even see it coming. Lucas froze. Security guards moved closer. Amara continued, her tone sharp but calm. "These are the recordings you left on your private server," she said. "The same one you thought you deleted. I gave the originals to federal agents an hour ago." Lucas's face turned pale. You set me up." Amara met his glare without fear. "No. You set yourself up the moment you underestimated me." Ethan stepped forward, placing his hand gently on her shoulder. The same board that once mocked her now watched in stunned silence as he faced Lucas. "You stole my company once," Ethan said coldly. "But you'll never steal it again." Federal agents entered the hall, badges glinting. Lucas Crane, one said, "You're under arrest for corporate fraud, forgery, and obstruction of justice." The hall erupted, reporters shouting, cameras flashing, the board rising to applaud as Lucas was dragged out in handcuffs. For a moment, amid the chaos, Amara closed her eyes and exhaled. Months of pressure, betrayal, and fear, all finally ending in justice. Ethan turned to her. "You planned this, didn't you?" She smiled faintly. "I learned from the best. You taught me to never give up on something worth saving." He looked at her with quiet pride. "I think you just saved more than my company, Amara. You saved me." As the news of Lucas's arrest spread, the world once again turned its eyes to the unlikely pair who had beaten every odd. But one final surprise was still waiting, a moment neither of them saw coming. The storm was finally over. By the next morning, every news outlet in the country carried the same headline. Lucas Crane arrested, Thorn Industries saved by CEO and his wife. The stock soared. Investors who once doubted returned. For the first time in a long while, Ethan could breathe again. But he wasn't celebrating numbers. He was thinking about her. That afternoon, the company hosted a press conference in the Grand Auditorium, broadcast live across the world. Ethan stood at the podium, the lights blazing, hundreds of reporters waiting for his statement. Behind him, Amara sat quietly, calm as always, her presence commanding without trying. He began with steady words. "Today marks a new chapter for Thorn Industries," he said. "But this victory doesn't belong to me. It belongs to the woman who saw hope where everyone else saw failure." He turned toward her. "Amara Lewis Thorn is officially reinstated as co-chairwoman of this company." The audience erupted in applause. Flashes burst from cameras. Reporters shouted her name. One voice rose above the rest. "Mr. Thorn, was your marriage real or just a business arrangement?" The room fell silent. Ethan paused, looking at Amara. For a moment, his eyes softened. Then he stepped away from the podium, took the microphone, and faced the crowd directly. "It started as a contract," he said. "A desperate deal to save what I thought was just a company. But somewhere along the way, she turned it into something greater." He smiled faintly. "She turned it into a covenant." A quiet murmur spread through the room. He walked toward her, every step deliberate. "You once told me to marry you to save the company," he said, stopping in front of her. "Now I'm asking you to marry me, to save my heart." The entire hall gasped as he dropped to one knee. For a second, Amara froze, stunned, emotional, the weight of every moment they had survived flashing in her eyes. Then she stood, trembling but composed. "Ethan," she whispered. "Are you sure? The world already judged us once." He looked up at her, smiling softly. "Then let them judge. Because this time, I'm choosing you, not for business, not for survival, but because I finally know what's worth fighting for." A tear escaped down her cheek. She nodded slowly, then said the one word that silenced the entire room. "Yes." The applause that followed shook the walls. Reporters cheered. Employees rose to their feet. Even the board, once skeptical of her, joined in the ovation. Ethan stood, pulled her close, and kissed her under the flashing lights. At that moment, it wasn't just about victory, it was about redemption, forgiveness, and love reborn from chaos. Hours later, as the press conference ended, the company's new name was unveiled on the screen behind them. Thorne and Lewis Global. The audience erupted once again, chanting their names as confetti rained down. Amara turned to Ethan, her voice barely a whisper. "So, what happens now?" He smiled. "Now, we build. Together." That night, the city skyline gleamed brighter than ever. For the first time since the collapse, the Thorne Tower lights weren't a symbol of failure, they were a beacon of hope. A MAID and a billionaire had rewritten the rules of power, love, and legacy. And their story was only just beginning. But what they built wasn't just a company, it was a legacy. One born from faith, forgiveness, and the courage to start again. 6 months later, Thorne and Lewis Global had risen higher than ever before. The stock price shattered every previous record. Reporters now called it the greatest corporate comeback of the decade. But for Ethan and Amara, success meant more than numbers. It meant freedom, the freedom to redefine what power looked like. The morning sun glowed through the glass walls of their new headquarters. Ethan stood by the window, watching the city below. A soft laugh broke his focus. "Still watching the numbers?" Amara asked, walking in with 2 cups of coffee. He smiled. "Old habits die hard." She handed him a cup. "Good thing some habits are worth keeping." They sat together in quiet contentment. No scandals. No boardroom wars. Just peace. 2 weeks later, the Lewis Foundation for Women in Technology and Justice was officially launched. It offered scholarships for young women in STEM and legal aid for those wrongfully dismissed from corporate jobs, just like Amara once had been. At the ribbon-cutting ceremony, she said, "This foundation isn't about charity. It's about giving back the voice I once lost. Because brilliance shouldn't be silenced by bias." The crowd applauded, and Ethan watched with pride. To him, she wasn't just the woman who saved his company. She was the one who saved him from himself. A few weeks later, a TV crew arrived to film an exclusive interview, Love and Legacy, the story of Thorne and Lewis. They sat side by side on the studio stage, the lights warm but gentle. The host leaned forward. "Mr. Thorne, what do you think when you look back at everything that's happened?" Ethan paused, glancing at Amara. "She was my last chance," he said quietly. "And I almost threw it away." The host turned to Amara. "And you, Mrs. Thorne?" Amara smiled softly. "He gave me a voice when the world called me invisible. That's something I'll never forget." The audience clapped, touched by the sincerity between them. The host ended the segment with one line that summed up their journey. From the maid's broom to the boardroom, together, they built more than a company. They built hope. Months later, Amara stood in front of a lecture hall at her old university. The banner above read, "Breaking Barriers, Women in Leadership." Rows of young women listened, eyes wide, as she shared her story. "I was once told I'd never work in finance again," she said. "But life has a strange way of proving doubters wrong, especially when you keep believing in yourself." At the back of the hall, Ethan watched quietly. He wasn't there as a CEO, but as a proud husband, someone who'd learned that the greatest strength doesn't come from titles, but from trust. When the lecture ended, he joined her on stage. Students cheered, snapping photos of the couple who had turned scandal into inspiration. Ethan leaned close and whispered, "You know what they'll remember most?" She smiled. "The company?" He shook his head. "No. That the smartest business decision I ever made was listening to the maid who believed in me." As they walked out of the university, the evening sky painted everything in gold. 2 names glowed on the horizon, Thorne and Lewis Global, symbols of redemption, partnership, and faith. Their story had begun in crisis. It ended in legacy. And somewhere between the fall and the rise, love found its place.